Gabimaru was raised to be a heartless ninja assassin, only to be softened by the purest thing in the world, the love of another. After being betrayed by the very people he spent his life serving, he's unjustly imprisoned and sentenced to death. With all hope seeming lost at the final moment, he's given one path back to his wife, to undertake what amounts to a self-sacrificing mission and succeed at attaining a certain immortality elixir. Only then he can reclaim what was taken from him. For the ruthless killer whose heart beats only because of her, the choice is obvious. This is the story of Gabimaru the Hollow. Feudal-era Japan, a land often referenced for the harshness of its legal system and punishments. One such victim of the system is a young man named Gabimaru. In the courtyard of a magistrate's compound, the man sits on his knees, about to be beheaded. Only the katana used for his execution is unable to break through his skin. Swing after swing comes down on his neck, yet none find any success. Eventually, the blade itself shatters on impact with the man. Though the magistrate and his men are baffled, the young man himself is the most disappointed. Why is he denied his death? He has nothing left to live for. He just wants to die. That night, Gabimaru is visited by a woman in his holding cell while a new execution method is prepared. Being a scribe sent here to record his life, she asks several questions about him and how he ended up here. Hailing from the shinobi village of Iwagakure, he was raised to be the perfect assassin from childhood and trained extensively in the concerned techniques for such a life. Though the shinobi of Iwa are put through absolute hell in the name of training, those who survive come out with superhuman physical abilities. This is why the blade before was unable to harm him. Gabimaru finally speaks up, telling her he didn't even need to use ninjutsu to stop that weak blade. Intrigued, the woman asks to see some ninjutsu if he can really use it, but he declines. Over the next few days, Gabimaru suffers several further execution attempts, from being burnt at the stake to boiled in oil, yet none of these attempts are able to harm him. While the executions are attempted by day, the woman visits him by night, refusing to back down from the task. Although he's hesitant, he finally gives in and speaks to her. Orphaned as an infant by the village chief for unknown reasons, he was Iwa's ultimate weapon, the perfect assassin. As such a tool, he claims to have no dreams nor ambitions, only his orders and his ability to follow them. The reason he's imprisoned is because he tried to think differently. He tried to leave the village, a forbidden act. Some comrades turned him in to the chief for this, and he was immediately sentenced to death. The next day, the magistrate brings a new execution method. By tying his legs to two bulls and having them run in opposite directions, he'll have the man ripped in two. Unfortunately for him, Gabimaru yanks on his bindings the second the bulls run, knocking them out. The woman notices this and asks why he would do that. Finally, Gabimaru reveals his full story. How he was married to the chief's daughter out of respect for his skills. How she was an upbeat, sheltered, naive fool of a woman. How she tried to make him grow and become more than what he was made to be. After getting fed up of her, Gabimaru went to the chief but was set up and arrested. Since then, he's just given up on life. That night, the woman learns of how Gabimaru killed 20 men before going down when he was arrested. She can only ask, why would a man with nothing to live for fight that hard? Meanwhile, Gabimaru thinks on the woman's questions and realizes he truly has been resisting the execution attempts on purpose. Does he truly not want to die? But why? What more does he have to live for? After another failed execution, Gabimaru was finally brought to an underground chamber. This time, his executioner is none other than the woman, Yamada Asaemon Sagiri, from the esteemed Yamada Asaemon clan of sword testers and executioners. With orders from the shogun to end him, she announces that she will grant his wish for death. As she lets loose her killing intent and leaps at Gabimaru, his body is forced into action. Even as he struggles to understand why, he resists against this fate and refuses to die. Seeing his confusion in the midst of her sword swings, Sagiri speaks to Gabimaru. She declares that he is simply lying to himself, so death is easier to accept. The truth is, he loved his wife with all his heart. She was the only one to see him as himself, to care for his well-being, to show him a different path. His emotions flare and Gabimaru snatches a sword from a nearby guard and clashes blades with Sagiri. As they battle, she continues to stir his memories with her words. Gabimaru wanted nothing more than to make his wife as happy as she made him. He knew she didn't like his profession, even though she never burdened him with that knowledge. Determined to do right by her, Gabimaru requested the chief's blessing to leave behind his life as an assassin and live a better life with her, a peaceful one. That is why he was arrested and his wife was taken away from him. Infuriated by the memory of betrayal, Gabimaru yells out that Sagiri could never understand him. After all, there's no way for him to get back what he's lost. Seeing his state, Sagiri brings the battle to a halt. With a scroll from the shogun himself, she announces Gabimaru is to receive a full pardon and protection on one condition. He must go to the mystical land of Shinsenkyo and recover the elixir of life. Since all the shogun's men who have been sent have returned dead by supernatural means, they've turned to criminals. Those sentenced to death across the lands have been given this offer: return with the elixir and retake their freedom. For the final nail in the coffin, Sagiri reveals that his wife is still in Iwa, closed off from the world and awaiting his return. Stunned, Gabimaru accepts at once. Before the agreement can be struck, the magistrate calls out in outrage, unwilling to let him walk free. He orders his men to capture them, making Gabimaru steel his resolve to become who he used to be once more: Gara no Gabimaru, the Hollow Assassin. As the men approach, he tells Sagiri that she is about to see the ninjutsu she wanted: Ninpo, Ascetic Blaze. With the release of a hellish flame from his body, Gabimaru crushes all of his enemies in mere moments. With no opposition remaining, he turns to Sagiri with an iron will. He'll do it. He'll get the elixir. He'll get his pardon. And he will get his wife back. In a roofless tent by the sea, the chosen criminals are gathered. With their hands bound and faces masked, they're each watched by an executioner of Yamada clan. Here, the shogun and his guards repeat the details of their mission. While this happens, Gabimaru is seen sitting silently, indifferent to his surroundings, even as the others start complaining. Meanwhile, Sagiri struggles with a moral dilemma that she's had all her life. How can she ignore the doubt and hesitation she feels when killing? As the criminals get more and more rowdy, one of the shogun's men makes an example of a criminal. The fact is, they're all already sentenced to death. They can either accept this mission or forfeit their lives. With the criminals quieting down, the man reveals one more condition: they must thin their numbers to fit on the ship to Shinsenkyo. While some are confused, a couple of the criminals realize this means they've got to kill each other and leap into battle. As the free-for-all descends into bloody chaos, the shogun takes note of the marked criminals, the ones with seemingly supernatural abilities. Through this all, Gabimaru remains sat in place, not bothering to make a single move. Some of the criminals see Sagiri as a weak point since she's a woman and prepare to escape. Though she feels her mental struggle weighing on her, she slices clean through the necks of these men. Right as she is wondering why she can't shrug off her fear, Gabimaru finally speaks, only to say killing is never okay. With those simple words, he spins her world on its head. Finally, moving from his place, he stands before the shogun and demands another way to thin their numbers. Surely there is no need for this mindless slaughter when there are alternatives. Angered, one of the shogun's men just orders a criminal to kill him. If he does, he'll be sent to Shinsenkyo at once. Though Gabimaru tries to talk some sense into him, the criminal is instantly ready to kill the assassin. Sighing in disappointment, Gabimaru prepares to fight once more. He has no wish to kill, but death isn't something he can afford now. What follows is a vicious and brutal massacre of epic proportions, slicing through people's chests, biting through their throats, kicking holes in their bodies. The assassin does it all. With his front bloodied and the fight taking him out of the tent, he stands with his feet in the sea in the setting sun behind him. The criminals have been lowered to just 10 in numbers. The selection is over, and the one responsible is the bloody shinobi before them, Gabimaru the Hollow. After landing on the island alongside the other criminals, Gabimaru and Sagiri go on their way. While they walk, Gabimaru regales her with a tale of the Iwa chief's immortality, something that proves the elixir of life is truly real, much to her internal surprise. Later, as they argue over his need to keep his hands bound according to the shogun's instructions, Gabimaru is attacked by one of the other criminals, a hulking man by the name of Twisted Keiyun, a monk obsessed with weapons. More importantly, his arms aren't bound and his Asaemon supervisor has no issue with this. According to him, the rules can be bent a bit since their priority is finding the elixir. Gabimaru insists that Sagiri heed this as well, but she stays true to her decision and orders him to stay bound. Keiyun launches himself at Gabimaru with several massive weapons while he's blinding his hands, only for them all to shatter on contact with the assassin. In response, Gabimaru blows him back and uses a leg to launch Keiyun's own weapon into his gut with a kick. The brute manages to survive, but not for long. His next rush at Gabimaru is his last act. In moments, the Hollow ends his life. The other Asaemon, Kisho, simply takes Keiyun's head and turns to leave. The supervisors only need to watch over the criminals after all. With Kei-yoon dead, his job is over. After a debate with Sagiri over the nature of their rules and a reveal that more men from Iwa are on their way to the island, he leaves. After he's gone, Gabimaru quickly frees himself, steals one of Sagiri's blades, and attacks her. He doesn't wish to kill her, especially since his wife wouldn't like that. But with Iwa on their way, he has to get to the elixir fast or he'll never see his wife again. And Sagiri's rules are a clear hindrance to that. In the clash of blades that follows, Gabimaru has several chances to end Sagiri's life, but he finds himself not taking them. The words of his wife ringing in his head. Her insistence that he's more than just a killer, that his emotions and how he embraces them are what make him truly brave. A belief that even influenced him on assassination missions. After missing many chances, Gabimaru finally gets Sagiri on the ground and gets on top of her. The words of his wife are overtaken by the chiefs, the man who raised them to be hollow, heartless, and ruthless. But even with his blade at her throat, Gabimaru can't bring it down and end her. With tears in his eyes, he trembles at the choice before him and the influence of his wife. Seeing his truest self before her, Sagiri finally understands. Gabimaru the Hollow is simply what he was forced to become. The man within and his emotions are still far too alive, and those are what will get him to reclaim his life. With words that mirror his wife's own, she sheathes Gabimaru's blade and tells him she wishes to help him see his task through. After they've reconciled and are preparing to go on their way, the two are surrounded by giant centipedes and a huge two-legged fish monster. Pulling his mask up, he tells Sagiri to get back and faces the abomination. And on this cliffhanger, our recap comes to an end. What a show. Some of the scenes gave me goosebumps. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and as always, thanks for watching. Drop us a like, share it with your anime friends, and subscribe to Anime Soreio for the latest released animes recapped on your feed. With that said, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.